Hey, I'm Todd Hampson, and I wanted to talk to you today about an interesting question that I get from time to time, and it's this. What is some of the technology that we see in the book of Revelation or in the end times? And is the technology we see today lining up with what we see in the end times? And of course, the book of Revelation and other areas that talk about the end times basically just tell it like it is. The book of Revelation in particular, there's so many things that John saw that he had never seen before that he tries to describe them. And he says, especially when he's describing Jesus or an angel or some of the things that he saw, he says, it's like this, it's like that. So of course, John's not going to describe computer chips and nuclear war and nuclear fusion and all these complex things that we only know about recently. That language didn't exist back then. So John used language that the reader of that time could relate to. But when you look carefully at the book of Revelation and the book of Daniel and other areas that talk about the end times, you find that there are certain things that are stated that honestly, of course, God can do anything. He's supernatural. He can make stuff happen out of thin air. He created the world ex nihilo, out of nothing. He spoke the world into existence. So he can do anything. But when you carefully look at Scripture, God doesn't do anything in a vacuum. For the first coming, for example, it says Jesus came in the fullness of time. It was the right time for him to come. The Roman roads were in place. The human conditions were in place. And so there's kind of two times when you look at Greek words. There's kairos and chronos. Chronos is chronological. Kairos is kind of like appointed times. In Bible prophecy, God has a way to merge those two things, where chronos, what we're experiencing linearly, kind of lines up with and leads to those other times, those appointed times. So I believe that's kind of how it is going to happen. And all that to say, I do believe there is technology that's used in the future tribulation period that is necessary for the things to happen that are spoken about in the book and that we are seeing developed or developing in our day. So here are just a few. For example, we read in the book of Revelation that the two witnesses are killed and that the whole world will see them. And the whole world will see it live. They'll see them killed. They'll celebrate for 3 days, and it'll see when their bodies are resurrected and when they're raptured. So that obviously was absolutely impossible at the time that John wrote it. It's possible in our time. If one person standing there with an iPhone recording a thing or live streaming it, it could go global. The things that were impossible at that time, we now see exactly how they could be fulfilled in our time. So that's one example. Another example is the mark technology. And what I mean is in the book of Revelation, where it talks about taking the mark of the beast, that nobody could buy or sell unless they had the mark. So somehow this mark is connected to individuals, and it's connected to their ability globally to buy and sell, and it's connected to them having to choose to worship the beast. When they take the mark, they know what they're doing. They are choosing to worship the beast, choosing to worship the Antichrist, and that gives them access to the global economic system. Well, we see all of the things involved, in that, in getting either in place or already in place today. China, for example, has this thing called the social credit system, where they can literally turn people off. They can, based on people's behavior, they can limit where they go. They can deny them access to trains or planes. They can deny them access to certain stores or certain privileges and that kind of thing. We see that all around the world, even in America, there are these huge database banks being built everywhere that literally you have a digital signature. You have a digital identity on you already somewhere in a database. It's kind of freaky and kind of scary. But also, we have other emerging things like maybe you've heard of the Internet of Things, where kind of, everything's connected to a database so that they know how many products to sell and where it is and all that kind of stuff. Well, there's a new emerging thing called Internet of Bodies. It sounds kind of freaky, but it's pills people swallow, things they have embedded, quantum dot tattoos, things you can have literally on your skin, forehead, or hand, just like it says, that are connected digitally and connect to a database. And then one of the biggies that I haven't heard too many people talk about, but that's really compelling, is cashless systems. We use our credit card for most things, or credit card or debit card. You can buy stuff online, never having to exchange cash. But then you also have Bitcoin and other systems like that, cashless systems that are decentralized systems where you can buy stuff and there's a ledger and there's accountability with that. People can go check the ledger, but you can see literally see every purchase you've ever done. You could, whole 9 yards. Well, now governments around the world are talking about coming up with their own cashless system. And the difference is those won't be decentralized. Those will be centralized. In other words, governments will control and be able to see everything that everyone buys or sells, and will have the ability to literally turn you off. If you're a criminal or you haven't paid your taxes or whatever, they'll be able to just shut you down to where you can't buy or sell until you come in and turn yourself in. So it's not a leap of the imagination to see how that technology could be used by the future Antichrist system to turn people off or to allow them to buy or sell or not buy and sell. Also, nuclear war. In the second seal, we see that 1/4 of the Earth's population dies. That wasn't possible in John's day, but it's possible in our day with nuclear weaponry. Then also, this is one most people don't think about much, and it's mobilization. When we get to the end of the tribulation period, we find that the armies of the world are gathered in Armageddon to fight against God, which is stupid, but it's literally going to happen. So, the armies of the world could not mobilize in one place like that from all over the world back in John's day. But obviously today, with planes and jets and boats and everything else that we have in modern technology, that is possible. So those are just a few of the things. There's actually a lot more, but those are some of the more compelling things that show that the technology that we have today closely lines up with what's needed for the future tribulation period. Doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow, but it does mean we're nearing that time. Hebrews 10:25 says we can see the day approaching, and we can do it when we look at technology and other signs and other conditions. All the lights on the dashboard are lit up that we're heading like a bullet train for that time. But one last thing, you don't need to fear. If you know the Lord, I believe Scripture clearly teaches we're raptured first. But we know for sure that God is in control of every day of your life. Read Psalm 139 just for some encouragement there. He's in control of every day of your life. He put you together. You're here at this time for a purpose, for a reason, and for a season. But anyway, I hope that sparks some interest in studying end time events and kind of helping you to see how real-time world events today are lining up with what the Scriptures have been saying for thousands of years. So hope you enjoyed that, and I'll talk to you soon.